بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. We mentioned the characteristics of the second generation of their tafsir. Of the tafsir of second generation, which is tabi'een. Okay? What was it? Do you remember? How it was different from the first generation? Do you remember some characteristics?
They started using their reason.
Yes, this is one of them. This is actually number 3. Reasoning. What are the others?
Inscription was one of them, or is that the...
Yes, the formulation of the tafsir. And the formation. Meaning that they started the inscription, the organization, like a syllabus, putting it together, formation, okay, recording it, verifying it. It used to be memorized, now it's on paper, not just memorized. And what was the first?
So they try to make sense of the Quran, not just the direct translation, but things like gods, like justice.
What do we call that?
Exegete.
Expansion. So in the tafsir, not only the literal meaning of the ayah, but expansion of history of nations, cultures, people, stories of prophets, messengers, sometimes scientific facts, you know. So not just translation, but also a deeper research into other subjects. Okay? And then, as Lily mentioned, that using the reason over what? Because there were 2 traditions.
Transitional and natural.
It was what? The first one was what?
Was just going based off of like the hadith.
Exactly. That they take the meaning from hadith, riwayah, transmittance, okay? But without even thinking of, the credibility of this. They just put it in the book because I heard it. He heard it from his teacher. That one heard it from another one. They just record it. While the second one was what? No, let me look deeper into this. Let me use my brain. God has given me brain. Does this make sense? Or just because someone says this is hadith? If it doesn't make sense, how can I accept it? Because we mentioned an important maxim, especially in the Shia tradition. What is it? Who follows who? Exactly. Faith or religion. Faith is something different. Religion follows what? Follows reason. كل ما قال به العقل قال به الشرع. Whatever reason endorses, religion would endorse too. Not vice versa. In the school of Ahl al-Bayt, we believe that this is first and this is second. This follows this. Yes.
Could you write the Arabic also?
كلما whenever كلما قال به الشرع قال no عقل العقل قال به الشرع. Everything reason accepts and approves. قال means approves, accepts, endorses. Then shar also comes and supports and endorses too. So something which is illogical or irrational is not accepted in religion. It's not accepted. And in the tafsir there are thousands of stories which has to be thrown in the recycle. They are not authentic. Neither the Prophet said them, nor his family, nor one of the credible of his companions, such as Ibn Abbas and Jabir al-Ansari and others, or Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. They would not speak nonsense. Whatever they speak is acceptable, in line with reason. Because the final judge, my friends, is reason. Reason is the final judge. Reason, if the reason is sound and healthy, does not err, does not go into error. While the hadith, it could be fabricated. Someone very talented, he would write a hadith, and when you read it, you think that this is exactly what the Prophet said. Whereas the Prophet never said this. You know how many popular hadiths we have now? They are written and spoken and repeated in every occasion, but they have no basis. When you investigate deeply into the origin of this hadith, it's baseless. A fabricator formulated it, not the Prophet. One of them is Hadith al-Nujum. What is Hadith al-Nujum? The stars. What is it? What is this narration of the stars? They call it Hadith al-Nujum, stars, which has no basis. This is fabrication. Ashabi, my companion, kan nujum. My companions are Mizuki. My companions, the Prophet says, but he didn't say that, it's fabricated. My companions are like stars. بأيهم اقتديتم اهتديتم. بأيهم. بأيهم, I translate that. اقتديتم اهتديتم. بأيهم, any one of them, any one of them. اقتديتم, you follow. اهتديتم, you get guided or guidance. You get guided. You get guided. My companions. This is my companions. Like stars. Like stars. It's like saying all Japanese peoples are perfect. All of them. So you can trust all of them. Is this acceptable in Japan?
No, not acceptable.
Not acceptable anywhere. Because not all people are. Maybe you can say the majority, 80%, 90%, But all people are perfect? No. So this is fabrication. Not all companions are perfect or stars. And when they made a research, it was found that in the chain of narrators of this hadith, there are several, not one or two, several veteran liars, not just liars, veterans. They were veterans. Because it does not go with the reason. For the simple fact, why it doesn't correspond to reason? Why? For the simple fact that those companions, they were fighting with each other. So who should I follow when they fight with each other? Should I follow this or should I follow that? Many Sunni narrators, when they speak about Imam Ali and Muawiyah, they say when Imam Ali radiyallahu anhu was fighting with Muawiyah radiyallahu anhu. Both. Or they say Hijr ibn Uday radiyallahu anhu, who was killed by Muawiyah radiyallahu anhu. So the murderer and the victim are, God is pleased with them and God is happy with them. How come? He's a murderer and this is victim, and God is okay with both? What sort of God is this, who's okay with the murderer and the victim? One of them should be wrong. Okay? So when you incorporate your reason, you know this is a lie. This is fabrication. But unfortunately, many people can't accept this fact. That reason follows religion, not religion. Religion does not follow reason. Religion follows reason. Not reason follows religion. Reason first, religion second. And this is how many people wrote the tafsir. They wrote things that does not make sense. They interpreted certain verses in the Quran in a way that it does not make sense. Doesn't make sense. Not only the Sunnis, the Shia too. The Shia also, they wrote many fabrications. Not the Sunnis. To be honest and fair, we have to tell the whole story. Even in some Shia tafasir, which I am going to tell you on Wednesday, I'm going to mention some names. There are certain passages that are unacceptable. It's a plagiarism. They took it from other books. Sometimes other Sunni references, sometimes non-Muslim references. Cut and paste. They took it from there, he puts it in his book, without even thinking about the consequences. So he was not a researcher, in fact, or a careless researcher. A researcher means he makes a research. Before you write anything, you have to be careful. Is this right or wrong? Does this make sense or not? So not only the Sunnis, but the Shias are also implicated in this mistake. So incorporating reason. Didn't we give an example last time? What was the example last time? That I said one of the Mufassirin, his family name is Isfahani because he was born in Isfahan, but he lived in Baghdad. Do you know that many of the Mufassirin historians originally from Iran, but then they moved to Baghdad and to Iraq, Baghdad, Kufa, other places, and they died there. So their birthplace is Iran, their burial site is in Iraq. Many, hundreds, thousands. So this man, his name is Muhammad. His name is Abu Muslim Muhammad. His name is Muhammad ibn Bahr. Muhammad ibn Bahr, his nickname is Abu Muslim al-Isfahani. This man, of course, he was tabi'i. He was tabi'i, by the way, from the second generation. He was from the second generation, and he was born 254 in Isfahan, and died 322. So born 254, died 322, and so this was during the Abbasid era. And some of the Abbasid caliphs, they chose him as a governor. Governor of Isfahan and Shiraz. Shiraz, what was the name of Shiraz at that time? Fars. So he was the governor. He worked for some Abbasid caliphs. And he was known in the scientific circles as being Mu'tazilite. Who are the Mu'tazilite? Mu'tazilite versus what? Ash'arite. Ash'arite believed in what? And Mu'tazilite believed in what?
Coercion and free will.
Exactly. Ash'arite, at that time, until now, they believe in coercion. They believe in no choice, no existence of choice. Why? If you tell them why, they say it hurts the sovereignty of God if you have choice. Because God is the planner. God is the designer. You cannot make yourself God. And look at the Quran, it's filled with verses that says it's God's mashi'a, God's will. If God wills, He will do this, He will do that. If He doesn't will. So this means that you have no choice. Mu'tazilite, on the other side, they were what? They believed in what?
Free will.
Complete free will. That God, to the extent that some of them believed that God just creates you and then He resigns. He doesn't interfere in your life at all. So He has no role in your life. Just to create it, creation and guidance in the beginning. Both are wrong. In the school of Ahlul Bayt, our Imams, they teach us that both opinions are wrong. Neither you have absolute coercion and dictatorship, nor you have absolute what? Free will. It's not absolute. Why it's not absolute? For the simple fact, when many times you try to do something, it didn't happen. People try to marry this person, doesn't happen. He wants to buy this house, it doesn't happen. He wants to move to this country, it doesn't happen. He wants to have a boy, his wife brings boy, she brings girl. Okay? So this means that he's not the absolute controller of his life, and he does not have absolute free will. Imam al-Sadiq has a beautiful theory. He says, لا جبر, neither absolute coercion nor absolute free will. وإنما أمر بين أمرين. وإنما, it's in the middle. God gives you freedom, but also limited freedom. He gives you choice, but sometimes God does interfere in your life. It's like the father who tells his son or his daughter, like Atiyah Khanu, that Atiyah, I believe in your maturity, in your independence, so you can choose. But once in a while, I might tell you what to do, because I have to interfere in your life once in a while. When I deem it's important to interfere, I will interfere. Okay.
You said that the Hanafis believe in the compulsion?
The Hanbali.
Hanbali.
Ahmad ibn Hanbal. So these are two philosophical schools. They believe that this guy, Abu Muslim, was Mu'tazilite. When you study his life, he believed in the ideas and the doctrines of the Mu'tazilite. So what did he do last time, Lily? How did he interpret the ayah of Zakaria?
He said that
Zakaria, when he became old and he wanted
he wanted a son.
an heir, because warith, an heir, someone to succeed me. I'm going to die and my name is going to be buried. I need someone to handle. So God said to him, ayatuka, and his wife is old. God said, okay, I agree. I'll give you a son. But how do I know my wife is going to get pregnant? She's old. She passed the age of pregnancy. God said to him, ayatuka alla tukallim an-nasa thalatha layalin sawiya. For 3 nights, sawiya means 3 consecutive nights, you don't speak. In another verse, illa ramza, You don't speak unless with sign, ramza, rams. So there are two schools. One school believes, Mizuki, is that his silence was what?
Silence was his choice.
Not his choice. The first school says it was not his choice. It was forced on him. He became a mute. He could not speak. God made him a mute. So he doesn't speak. The second school that depends on rational interpretation says God said to him, don't speak with people ordinary speech. Just remember God, sanctify him. And it was his choice. Not that God sealed his mouth. No, God didn't seal his mouth. God gave him a sign that I will, once you do this, your wife is pregnant. When we give you the order that from today you begin just speaking with sign language to people and sanctify God, then this means your wife is getting pregnant. Another interpretation, the transition versus rational. In chapter 2, Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, verse 260. When you go home, check it out. 260. Chapter 2, the cow, the Baqarah, verse 260. وَإِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ رَبِّ أَرِنِي كَيْفَ تُحْيِي الْمَوْتَى. Abraham, the father of all the prophets, probably you heard his name. Once he said to his Lord, please show me how you resurrect the dead when we die, how you bring them back to life. Give me an example, show me so I can. So God said to him, to Abraham, قَالَ أَوَلَمْ تُؤْمِنْ. You still have not believed in resurrection? قَالَ بَلَى. Adam said, no, God, of course I believe. Of course I trust you. وَلَكِنْ لِيَطْمَئِنَّ قَلْبِي. I find peace and stability. My heart becomes stronger when I see it. Not that I don't believe. I believe, but my belief is going to be compounded and intensified and deepened. يَطْمَئِنَّ قَلْبِي. I find peace in this, peace of mind. God said, okay, I'll show you how I resurrect the dead. قَالَ فَخُذْ أَرْبَعَةً مِّنَ الطَّيْرِ. Go and bring 4 birds. فَصُرْهُنَّ إِلَيْكَ. This is the differences here. فَصُرْهُنَّ. See, it is in 260, okay? It says فَصُرْهُنَّ. فَصُرْهُنَّ. Now, the dispute between the two traditions is over the meaning of فَصُرْهُنَّ. فَصُرْهُنَّ. One tradition believes that the meaning of فَصُرْهُنَّ is to kill the birds. The second says no, it's not to kill. The second says to what? To train them. To train the birds. فَصُرْهُنَّ إِلَيْكَ ثُمَّ اجْعَلْ عَلَى كُلِّ جَبَلٍ. After you train them, put every bird at the top of each mountain, 4 mountains. ثُمَّ ادْعُهُنَّ. Then call them. يَأْتِيَنَّكَ سَعْيًا. They will rush to you. وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّ اللَّهَ عَزِيزٌ حَكِيمٌ.
So Sayyid, when it says to put on each hill a portion of them, portion meaning each one.
Yeah,
Each
yeah.
one.
But this is not right. God did not tell him. This first school that believes in killing, the traditional school, they believe that God said bring 4 birds, kill them, mix them together, mix the bones and the flesh, and then after you mix them, take 4 portions and put each on the top of a mountain, then stand there and tell them to come. They get resurrected, they come to you. This is how I resurrected them. But this is not. This is the riwayah, the transitional. But when you come to the rational, they say no. فَصُرْهُنَّ does not mean kill. It means train them. Teach them, train them, and then put each bird far from you at the top of the mountain and maybe whistle. Ud'uhunna, it could be whistling, it could be, gesture, physical gesture. They will come to you. God is trying to tell him, it's easy for me. Wherever the body is buried, in the sea, in the river, in the cemetery, in the land, on the land, when I resurrect them, they come to me. They receive my orders and they obey. God says it's about training. When you train the bird or train a dog, let's say, and then tell the dog, hey, come here. They rush to you, they come back to you. It's about the training and teaching. So God says, this is how I resurrect. Nobody can say no to me. He's the Lord, He's the Creator. So He says to our souls and bodies, get together and come back.
So would it mean if they are, if you translate it in a human who doesn't obey God, then they will not come to Him?
How come?
No, I'm saying
No, but this is for the souls. The souls, they should come. Here, listen, here we have a choice not to listen to Him, but there we have no choice. Here they will drive us like a herd of sheep. Go. وَأُحْضِرَتِ الْأَنفُسِ. Allah says, وَأُحْضِرَتْ. They are brought before us. It's not a choice. Choice here. Once we die, no more choice. We have choice here because this is the life of test. God is testing us. There it's not the light of test anymore. There's the light of the life of what?
God's will.
Huh?
God's will.
It's the life of jaza. Either the results, either punishment or reward. Here there is no jaza. اليوم عمل ولا حساب. Today, it's your work. They would not hold you accountable, but tomorrow they will hold you accountable, and there is no more work. So it's different. Even the disobedient here cannot be a disobedient there. Okay. Therefore, Allah says in the Quran, وَسِيقَ الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا, both إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ زُمَرًا or to Jahannam. Allah uses the term siqa. See, in the Quran, siqa. Siqa. Siqa means what? Driven. They are driven. They have no choice. Even those who go to paradise, they are driven. Boom. Throw them there. So here, it's not about choice. Okay, my friends? Yes, you wanted to say something.
In this case, could it be both meanings? I'm not saying in general, but in this case.
It can't. It can't, because here, either they are killed or they are trained.
Yeah, the first one actually doesn't make any sense. You're right, rationally, because the question Abraham is asking is, show me how you give life to the death. So he's asking him, how do you do it? If he just tells him, kill him, put him out there, bring him back, it doesn't make any sense. What does that show?
Yeah. And God wants to give another example, because look at the verse. The ending of the verse is very important to understand the ending of the verse. It says, وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّ اللَّهَ عَزِيزٌ حَكِيمٌ. Know, Abraham, that God is Aziz. Aziz means what? Powerful. He's able to do anything. So it means, though you think it's difficult, someone who's turned into dust, his bones are decomposed completely. But God is Aziz. Alim, He knows what to do. Alim means He's an expert in this job. Don't worry about Him. So, yeah.
On Right. But in the case of, let's say, Nabi Isa, Jesus, he
Yeah.
was sort of allowed to bring back.
Yes, yeah. Nabi Isa with the permission of God. Nabi Isa, Prophet Jesus was a vehicle.
Right,
A vehicle. A vehicle himself.
right.
He will get the code from God, the password, he will use it. He will use the password only.
Right, but in a sense, he could have allowed Abraham to kill the bird actually and let him, just like he allowed
No,
Jesus.
no,
But
no,
that's
no,
not what
no.
it means.
See, the question of Abraham was not show me how someone is dead, he comes up. It wasn't. It was how do you do that? What do you
Oh,
use?
the process.
What is the process?
Okay.
He was not asking him, show me someone is dead, he would stand. No value in that. He knows. Abraham knows. Definitely, when we die, we will stand. He was telling him, what is the secret? What do you do?
And that's why.
God wanted to tell him the secret is, you can do that now. You can do. A bird that flies in the sky, uncontrolled, you take that bird, train the bird, teach the bird, then tell him to come from afar, he would come to you. I have control over everything. God is trying to say, I have control. Those people are my people, I created them. So when I want them to come back, psht, I say, stand up, they stand up.
Right, and sort of God even going with the conversation and to let Abraham even ask this,
Of
sort of him
course.
saying it's okay to use your.
Of course, and this is a lesson for us. Abraham was allowed to ask how people are resurrected. Moses was allowed to ask, I want to see you physically. He was allowed to ask. God did not say to him, shut your mouth.
Yeah.
You are saying something bad. God said to him, you can't see me, Moses. You cannot see me because I'm not a physical being. These are lessons for us. And those prophets, when they asked these questions, it was a teaching process. It was not just because of themselves, for their own personal knowledge. It was for people to hear what they say. Okay. So this is another example of how you see that some of them, they used what? Their brain. And using the brain, my friends, what do we call it? What is the professional term of using the brain?
Rationale?
No. No. We said that many times. In English or Arabic, whatever. Using the brain in the process. Using reason in the process. What do we call it? Ijtihad. Ijtihad. Ijtihad, it means the reasoning process. Using the reason in understanding what God is telling you. Why? Because the Quran, وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. Muddakir, we made it easy for people to understand. Are there any people who are going to use their brain? Muddakir. People who use their brain. Many chapters in the Quran that speaks about using the brain. Using the brain. Tadabbur, reflection. Use your brain. أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ. أَفَلَا, shouldn't they? أَفَلَا means shouldn't they reflect? Not just read. I want you to reflect and go. Think about this verse. What does it say? Using reflection and meditation is good. I have a friend of mine who once told me that I've been reading during Ramadan the Quran for 40 years. 40 years of my life. Every Ramadan I finish the Quran sometimes twice, sometimes 3 times, from cover to cover. One year I decided that year I'm not just going to read. I'm going to reflect. I'm going to take my time. I don't have to rush myself and read with my eyes and think with my mind. In the past, I used to read with my tongue, but I don't use my mind. Just physical reading. This time, after 40 years, he said, I decided to think, pause, think about this verse. he said, I benefited in this one Ramadan much more than the 40 Ramadans in the past. Because this was a learning process for me. I used my brain. And this is exactly what we need to do with the Quran. It's not important that I read 50 pages or 100 pages a day, or even a whole surah. No, don't have. Read 1 page. Read 3 lines. 3 lines. But with understanding. Reflect. Shut the Quran. Think about it. Close your eyes. You will learn. You will learn many things. And you will enjoy the Quran. You enjoy it. You enjoy it. It captures your attention. When you reflect on the Quran and meditate on the Quran. Today in the madrasa, you see little kids go to some Pakistan, to Saudi Arabia, many countries, 5 years old. They read, they memorize, but they don't understand. Tell him, listen, can you tell me the meaning of this sentence? Meaning for them is not important. Someone said one day, was saying that the hasir, the piece of straw, is haram. I can't pray on this. You know, in the past they didn't have. Those who were rich, they would use this carpet. Those who were not rich, even in the mosques, even today. I saw this recently in one of the Arab countries I visited. They have straw in the mosque. They don't have carpet. So he would say, no, I don't pray on the carpet. Why? What was his reason? What was the wisdom of not praying on the straw?
Didn't have that.
Huh?
Because the Prophet didn't have it.
Actually, the Prophet, he had nothing. He would, in his masjid, not even straw. No, because he said in chapter 17, Allah says, وَجَعَلْنَا جَهَنَّمَ لِلْكَافِرِينَ حَصِيرًا. Allah is going to make the hellfire for the disbelievers hasir. So this hasir is dangerous. While hasir means you are squeezed, you are detained. Hasr comes from hasr. Hasr is what? Restraining order. Hasr to hasr. To surround. But he doesn't use his brain. He thinks hasira means the straw, so he avoids the straw. This is serious, believe me. Many people who memorize some verses of the Quran, they don't understand. And this is not something new. This existed during the time of the Prophet. Time of the Prophet. Some people misunderstood some of the sentences. Some of them who were with the Prophet, they did not understand the true meaning. Now, let's go to the fourth one. Fourth characteristic of the second generation. So we said the first characteristic of their tafsir was expansion. The second was formulation, inscription, organization. It has chapters now. It's in a book. It's written. The third, reasoning. And the fourth, which did not exist during the first generation. This started to happen during the second generation because of the absence of the Prophet. Because of the absence of the Prophet. And therefore, the absence of the Prophet, the expansion of Islam, and the first generation Muslims were in Medina, small town. Any person who comes in, they know him. Well, today someone came from Mecca, someone from Yemen, someone from Sham. But then, after the Prophet, Islam started to move eastward, westward, northward, southward, in all directions, and many nations and cultures, they came into Islam. And Islam was interacting with other religions. So I'm giving you tips. I'm saying all these things to give you a tip to find out what was the fourth characteristic.
The language?
You mean translation of the Quran?
No, like
Ah.
different.
Different.
Like, يعني the Quran was like Arabic to English.
No. No.
Yeah.
No, translation came much later because many of those who studied the Quran, they had to study Arabic. They had to study. Translation came during the late Abbasid time,
Okay.
during Harun, Ma'mun, but this is before. This is the second generation. This is much earlier.
Is it like dealing with the universal nature of Islam?
Somehow, but it has to do with the influence of others on the tafsir, on the science of tafsir. The influence, the impact of others. Shall I say more? Elucidate? The influence of other religions. So what do we call this? There is a special terminology in Islam for this. Special name.
People of book.
I know, people of book.
And intra.
The influence of the people of book, or the intrusion of the people of book, huh? No. It has a special name. It has a term very famous. They use it in history, they use it in tafsir, they use it in hadith. And I've said this many times. It's a special bid'ah, not any bid'ah. A bid'ah a foreign bid'ah. Foreign bid'ah. Al-Isra'iliyat, Israelites.
I thought that was an example of it.
Yeah. So the term is Al-Isra'iliyat, meaning the biblical, okay? Israelites, which was the influence of many people who accepted Islam, especially from Judaism. Many leaders, among them Abdullah ibn Salam, very famous Jewish scholar who accepted Islam. Abdullah ibn Salam, during the second generation, Tabi'een. He was not part of the Sahaba, he came after the death of the Prophet. Abdullah ibn Salam. Ka'b al-Ahbar. Wow, Ka'b al-Ahbar is more famous. He was from Yemen, Ka'b al-Ahbar. Wahab ibn Munabbih. Wahab ibn Munabbih, third one. Okay, these names, they were Jews, and then they accepted Islam, and then they brought with them their influence and their baggage, cultural baggage. It's like here in America. In America, Muslims did not exist in America. So someone comes from Afghanistan, an immigrant to America, he brings his baggage with him. Someone comes from Iran, he brings his baggage. Someone comes from Lebanon, he brings it. Someone comes from Iran, someone comes from Pakistan.
Assimilation.
They bring their own version into religion, their own influence. What they learned in their culture, they bring it, which could not be part of religion, but part of culture. Few weeks ago, while the mu'adhin in the mosque was raising the adhan, a lady, she used her cell phone to broadcast the adhan in the masjid, and the mu'adhin was there using the mic. She was using her phone. Allahu Akbar. So people came to her, they said to her, there is live adhan. She said, what's wrong? In my country, many people, they say the adhan at once. Many people, so what's wrong with that? They said to her, this is America. In America, the adhan is one. Because you're going to disturb the guy. He's raising the adhan at the same time you raise another adhan and then another adhan. So this is an example. Some people, they go to a place, they bring with them what they learned, which is not necessarily part of religion. It could be something wrong, but they think that was, because I learned this in my childhood. Not everything you learned in your childhood is necessary to be. Maybe some of them are good, some of them are not good.
So it could be a tradition,
Tradition. Those guys that I mentioned their name, Wahab ibn Munabbih, Ka'b al-Ahbar was number one. They were qassasin, storytellers. They became Muslims, but they would sit in Medina and then they tell stories and people gather around them in huge numbers, because at that time there is no social media, no TV, no movie theaters. People love to hear stories, and stories are very appealing, you know. People love to hear stories. People who are 2 years old to people who are 92 years old. They all love stories. Sometimes when I give lecture, some of them are, as soon as I say, today I saw someone, all of them. Story, all of them they want, believe me. So sometimes I have to make up a story. No, don't believe me, I don't make it.
So
They are all real.
Today's Hollywood,
Yeah. So those were qassasin, storytellers. Storytellers, people gather around them. So in order for them to make it enthusiastic, sounds enthusiastic and interesting and capturing, they would mix what is true with what is untrue. They mixed. They put spices, you know. This was there. So they bring stories from their own traditions, from their own books. And unfortunately, my friends, both the Old Testament and the New Testament, they have been tampered with, meaning they changed in them. They are not the original ones. These books were modified and changed. Do you know that the Torah was lost? The Torah, when Babylonian, they attacked Jerusalem, they destroyed the Torah, the original Torah. It was destroyed. 500 years after that, a rabbi came and he started gathering the Torah, gathering it from some burned papers, some pieces of woods, okay? Some from here, some from there, some from there, some from there. Some people memorized it, other generations. So he puts together. So this Torah is not the original one. This is the restored one, restored. You know what restored mean? Yeah. So it's not the original. And therefore some people, they told him false stories. This rabbi, false story. It wasn't. They made up the story. So he put it there as authentic.
See, the Israeliyat, I have two questions actually. The first one is, the Israeliyat, did they do it on purpose to sort of, sometimes to ruin the...
Not necessarily. Some of it some of it, no, he believed in the story. For instance, he believed that Noah, because it's in his book, after the flood, he drank alcohol, he got drunk, and then God forbids, he slept with his daughters. Because there were no people on earth. They all perished. So the daughters, they said, how we make a new generation? No people on earth. So let's sleep with our dad. And he slept with them. This is in the Torah. Check it out. This is in the Torah. Book of Genesis. He slept with his children, his daughters. How come that happened? So things like that. They attributed stories to Moses. Moses himself, who's an Israeli. They attributed false stories to him. That Moses he sent, or David, King David also, that he sent a lady was
Solomon said his best
bathing, taking shower. He saw her naked. He liked her. So he sent her husband to the battlefield to get killed so he would marry her. This is does not.
Solomon from her.
And Solomon, stories about even Abraham. Abraham, he went to Egypt. He wanted to find some food, shelter. People didn't care about him. He said to his wife, listen, people don't respect me, don't, take care of me. I want you to beautify yourself, make yourself attractive. So because of your beauty, people will give us some food, some shelter. Abraham would not do that. So these things were transferred. So some of them believed in them. Not that he knew he was cheating but he didn't care. He would bring from this culture into this culture. Don't we have now here in America? As I said, some Muslims, they bring their baggage from back home, they bring it here. Last Ashura in LA, some people use Zanjil. Boom, boom. Zanjil, you know, these chains. When you tell them, he says, well, I'm doing this in Pakistan 500 years. So what? That's Pakistan. Why do you bring it here? What good it would make? Are you convincing people that we are right by hitting yourself? Self-flagellation? Doesn't make sense. Because they did it in your country does not mean that this is authentic.
You said, question, Israeliyat, the term Israeliyat, is it just for the Jewish or Israeli influence, or is that
Yeah.
a general term for all the influence from anywhere?
No. Because most of the influence was Hebrew influence. Yes. Most of these. Why? Because the oldest scripture was the Torah. Okay? People did not see the book of Abraham. Nobody has a copy of that. The two books that we have copies of them, and they did exist, the Old Testament and the New Testament, Torah and Injil. And Injil also takes from the Torah. Do you know that? Some of the stories that are mentioned in the Old Testament, they are repeated in the New Testament. So they would take, because there were no other books. This is why they are called Israeliyat, because most of them, they come from the Hebrew tradition. So this was the characteristic fourth one of the second. This did not exist with the second. Why? Because they saw the prophet. They saw the prophet. And the prophet would do not allow them. The prophet said, I am here. Why do you bring story from left and right? The prophet one day said to Umar, because Umar also was enchanted with a story from a rabbi, so he said the story to the prophet. The prophet said to him, Umar, don't do that. You don't have to do that. Umar, believe me, if Moses was alive today, he would follow me. Moses, their leader and their prophet, if he's alive, ما وسعه إلا أن يتبعني. He would not go after something else. He would follow me. So there is no need to bring. You have the authentic source here. Why do you bring from here and there?
Omar used to make a lot of references to Moses. Was he maybe Jewish? Or
No.
was he influenced by it?
Probably influenced, because in Medina there were a Jewish community,
Right.
Christian community, Jewish community. So they had friends. They had friends. It depends on your influence. I know when we opened the mosque more than 20 years ago, a lady would come every Thursday, every Friday, and she tells me, you said this story, but in the Bible is something else. Always she would challenge me because the Bible. So I said, are you a convert? She said, no. But when I came to this country, there were no mosques, so I would go to the church. She was a church goer. So she adopted the church, the biblical teachings. So it doesn't have to be a convert or a Jewish or a Christian, but the influence, Sometimes you're a friend, sometimes you go to the church, sometimes you read books. It's the influence. Some of the Israelites, now, is this positive term or negative term? Negative. Though some of them were correct and they are mentioned. Let's say the story of Abraham. Some of it is mentioned in the Old Testament and the Quran. The story of Joseph, maybe 80% what we have in the Quran is also in the Old Testament. We are not speaking about the positive ones and the true ones. We are speaking about which is not true.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
I've heard the name Ka'b ibn Ahbar. He became a mufassir also.
Ka'b al-Ahbar, not Ibn al-Ahbar. He did not become a mufassir, but he influenced some mufassirin.
How would it be that I heard his name? Probably he has some hadith.
Of course, not only stories of in the Quran, hadiths also. He was storyteller, and therefore he sits and people listen to him, and they assume that this is authentic. They assume that the Prophet said this. It's like the influence of movie on American people. Aren't they influenced by the media and the movie? So he was like a movie star. He would tell stories, and people take him serious. That was the source of information for people.
So probably some of the stuff that he said also came in our Shia books. probably.
Absolutely, absolutely. Some of these Israeli, I will show you next Wednesday some of the stories that our scholars, unfortunately, some of them did not do a good job. We have two types of scholars. One is a scholar who's a researcher. He would not write anything unless he investigates and thoroughly dissect. Others, storytellers, they just write. One of them is Bihar al-Anwar. Great book, great scholar, but he himself in the beginning, it's 110 volumes. 110 volumes. I was 18 years old when I purchased this. The first book I purchased when I collected some money was Bihar al-Anwar. 110 volumes. I was 18 years old. He says in the beginning, Allam al-Majlisi, Muhammad Baqir al-Majlisi. He says, I collected the hadith, but that does not mean everything I put here is authentic. This is collection. And I called it Bihar, oceans. Why? Because in the ocean you find some crabs and some trash and some poison, and you find some fish and some pearls, la'ali, pearls. So you find both. So in this hadith, there are many Israelites in this book. Many Israelis. So it's not only the Sunnis, we have to be fair. Both traditions.
I heard they are revisiting and trying to go through and filter.
Maybe they take khulasa or the Sahih of Bihar al-Anwar. They are taking it, yeah. They are trying to filter it.
Would you say for the majority of Bahar al-Anwar is reputable or no?
I really don't know. I can't say the percentage, but I know many, I would not read them. I would not use them as a reference. I would not use them because it does not make sense, and you can tell that this is not an authentic hadith. Many, but how much? 50%, 40%, 30%? I really don't know. But as he said, they are filtering these books. Group of scholars now, especially in Qom, they are sitting and filtering these. وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل